Brandon Ingram struggles as the Raptors lose to the Hornets. They have lost 4 of their last 5. Let's go to the film room.
The only thing that's originally filmed is that and I've studied older films and tried to figure out how I got that impression. I was getting amazed when we were cutting room.
The unique thing about film is an art form
exactly.
is the editing.
Brandon Ingram really struggled in tonight's game. He was 3 of 13, had 7 points and 4 turnovers in this one. I thought the Hornets did a really good job of making it anybody but BI on offense, sending tons of bodies his way on drives. As you see here, as he's looking for this alley-oop pass to Jakob Poeltl, Con Knipple is trailing the play, looking to contest. Ryan Kalkbrenner is selling out on Jakob Poeltl for this drive. Even Miles Bridges is contesting. So a lot of bodies on Brandon Ingram. At this point, though, he has to use this attention to make plays for others, and I thought that's where he struggled with tonight. Patent play for the Raptors. They run a Chicago action, pin down into a dribble handoff. And again, I thought he was just a step late in making these plays. Colin Murray-Boyles has the seal here on Tajon Salon. He can make this dump-off pass if he wants to. But also look at the defensive scheme for the Hornets. LaMelo Ball completely helping off of Jamal Shed here. Miles Bridges pinched in as the low man. And so a lot of opportunities for them to get stops on BI and make it hard on him. And while BI gets a decent look here from the mid-range area, look how many bodies are near him. And he's a step slow to make these passes out all game. And the Raptors are really struggling to get a paint touch, man. Like, BI can't get really any advantage right now, one-on-one, getting into the paint. And there's really nobody on the Raptors team right now that's able to get into the paint. This whole possession encapsulates that. Nobody gets a good enough paint touch to really force the defense into rotation, and they settle into a 3. Another basic play for the Raptors for Brandon Ingram, pinned down, and he catches it in the paint. But watch how many bodies swarm him, right? A late contest by Brandon Miller, which is really, really good job by them defensively to make it hard on him. He has to kick this out to Jakob Poeltl. They force a turnover. Now watch how many bodies are on Brandon Ingram. He has to make plays in these situations. Pick and roll, gets into the middle of the floor. And so there are 3 players with all eyes on Brandon Ingram. Miles Bridges is completely selling out of the corner here. So there's an opportunity for BI to hit Scotty in the corner. Scotty is at a good 3-point shooting season. This would make viable sense. He could be quicker with the pass to Jakob Poeltl, who's rolling. And again, Kalkbrenner is very, very close to BI here. This is a pass that he can make. Or he could time this and whip it back to IQ, who's had a really great quarter. IQ had 10 points in the third quarter, and they're completely leaving him open because they want to pay attention to Brandon Ingram. 3 players on BI. He has to make plays and make them decisively. And unfortunately, he makes his play way too late, gets blocked. Another patent play for the Raptors, pinned down, and, he catches it, gets into the paint. But again, watch how many bodies, how many eyes are looking at Brandon Ingram. Con Knipple ready for the contest. Even Emmanuel Quickley's man sells out completely on IQ above the break for the contest. Miles Bridges completely helping off of CMB. Again, I understand that a lot of attention is being sent to Brandon Ingram, but this is the opportunity for him to make plays and make them quicker, be faster with his decision-making, either kicking this out to Emmanuel Quickley, passing to the corner and Colin Murray-Boyles, or passing it to Jakob Poeltl, the low man. Just a lot of options. They have to be made quickly, but he takes way too much time, gets it to Colin Murray-Boyles, and the advantage dissipates for the Raptors offense. A little bit later in the play, that same possession, they run a pick and roll. He gets into the middle of the floor and watches, 3 contests. Con Knipple is 5 feet away, and he still provides a contest on here. That's how much attention he was getting all night. He has to be quicker with the decision-making here. Again, Emmanuel Quickley having a very good game, wide open above the break. Whereas this was a good possession. Iverson cut, and then they flow into a pick and roll. And the defense pinches in, but he does a good job of making a quick, decisive pass to Jamal Shed. Stampede cut, gets into the paint, settles into a floater. And so, folks, this was a abhorrent game from the Raptors in general, but specifically a bad one from Brandon Ingram. The Raptors got demolished by the Charlotte Hornets on the second night of a back-to-back. They have lost 4 of their last 5 games, 2 of those against the Hornets. And, So look, there's a couple of things here. Obviously, we could talk about the Raptors, losing 4 games, 4 of their last 5 games, and the fact that this is 3 games in 4 nights, and it's the second night of a back-to-back, and they look tired, and truthfully, they look disinterested, and they look like they were gassed all throughout this game. We could talk about the lights and the weird lighting issue that happened to start the game, and how that might have got them off to a slow start in general. Um, we could talk about the fact that they're missing RJ Barrett, and that makes it a lot harder for them to function on offense. I tweeted this earlier, but the Raptors are ranked 26th on offense right now in the 6 games without RJ Barrett. They've been truly bad offensively without Barrett in the lineup. A lot more reliance on Brandon Ingram, a lot more reliance on Scotty Barnes to create, a lot more reliance on Emmanuel Quickly to create. And that's kind of shifted the pecking order for the Raptors offense to the point where there's probably a level of over-reliance on those guys to create everything. And that's also had a cascading effect on the bench group, which is struggling, truthfully. I think Mamu has had a couple of bad games at this point. He was okay against the Lakers, but overall, could have been better. Jamal Shed has struggled as of late as well. And so, it's kind of all looking bad right now, and it's hard to come to you and be like, here is the silver lining from the Raptors' perspective. I guess the silver lining is the fact that they did play 3 games in 4 nights, and they probably were very tired, and they are missing RJ Barrett, and they played a very, I guess you want to call it emotional game versus LeBron and the Lakers where they lost the game winner. But how do you respond in those moments, man? I think that shows you what a team is all about in these moments. How do they get up 4 games? They knew coming into this one that the Hornets beat them in a pretty ugly way on Saturday, right? And how do you respond? Do you wake up and say, hey, we got to get this game because this Hornets team beat us in a really ugly way, and, came back and we scored 5. We didn't score for 5 minutes in the fourth quarter on Saturday. How do we respond? And this is the way you respond? I think that's not a good sign, truthfully. Now it's early in the season, and so, silver lining here for the Raptors is that they are missing RJ Barrett. And this is clear that RJ Barrett is so essential to this Raptors team offensively that they need him. And they need his paint touches. They need his innings eating offensively. They need him to be able to churn these transitional lineups and make things flow a little bit better for them. Restore the pecking order for the Raptors offense and make it easier for everybody else. This was a bad game, though. This, from start to finish, it just felt incredibly slow. The Raptors finished shooting 37% from the field, 31% from 3, 69% from the free throw line. They had 19 turnovers in this one. The Hornets shot 33 free throws. They couldn't defend. They couldn't score. That's what it was for the Raptors. They couldn't do a damn thing. It was bad. And, again, I feel like I don't want to make excuses because I can go ahead and tell you all the different facts, right? No RJ, tons of what's it called? The rest issue and the fact that there are 3 games of 4 nights and Brandon Ingram looks kind of gassed and all those type of things. And then the team themselves would tell you there are no excuses. Chelsea, shout out to Chelsea from Raptors HQ, but she asked Darko this last night about hey, you guys are playing a lot of games right now. Is there any level of fatigue to what you guys are experiencing? And he said, look, man, it's the NBA. Fatigue does not exist. For a lack of better terms, he was just you got to keep playing. It doesn't matter if you're tired, And Josh Lewenberg also asked Brandon Ingram and the coaching staff about hey, would you guys rest BI given the workload? BI only played 18 games last season, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, nah, I'm trying to play. And so the coaching staff and the players themselves are not giving themselves any excuses. I'm not going to sit here and give them any excuses either. This was a bad game. This has been a pretty bad stretch from the Raptors. And, no matter how you slice it, I remember I mentioned this. I think I mentioned this on Saturday when they lost to the Hornets, but the start of their December stretch was going to be very telling for me. Now, I know the fact that they're missing RJ Barrett is a big component to all of this, and so it's hard to take too much into consideration here. but how they responded to the amount of games that they were playing, the competition that they were playing, and the stakes of it all, I thought was going to be very telling for what kind of team this is going to be. So far, they have not answered that call, folks. And they have an opportunity to do so on Sunday versus the Celtics. I guarantee you that the coaching staff is going to have some words for this team post-game, and especially in the film room, about like how they can adjust. I do think there's a level of like, teams are very keyed in on Brandon Ingram right now, as you just saw in the film room. And how are they going to, one, make life easier on BI, but two, make it so that other guys can get opportunities, and for BI to make some plays in these situations. It's just wasn't good. Was not good tonight. It was ugly. Very, very, very ugly. And there's no excuse for that type of performance, for like mailing it in, really, And that's all I got for you guys. It was a bad game. It was ugly. I'm not going to belabor the point here and go 20 minutes on all the ins and outs. They played very bad. Brandon Ingram struggled. And truthfully, other than Emmanuel Quickly, who ended up with 31 points, there wasn't a single Raptor tonight that really was good outside of IQ. And the Hornets just completely took care of business here. How do you respond? Much like how I said that this stretch would be telling of what kind of team this Raptors team is, after losing 4 of your last 5 games, how do you respond? Do you come out flat against the Celtics? Do you mail it in the NBA Cup versus the Knicks? How do you respond? As I mentioned before, the NBA has their attention. They are at least curious about the Toronto Raptors now. You have a chance to either get their attention or for them to all call you frauds. That's just how it works in the NBA. And, this is an opportunity for the Raptors to show what they're made of. Let's see what they're made of. Folks, as always, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to Raptors Republic. Appreciate you guys as always. We'll keep rocking with you guys. We'll see you on Sunday for the Celtics. Peace.